So I'm a lifelong resident actually of the Bellville area. Primary schooling, I attended Goeiewe Primary down here in Bellville South, and my high school was Bellville South Senior Secondary. So I'm really a child of the northern suburbs. After high school, I continued to do my first degree at UCT, simply because I matriculated in 1986, which was just post boycott years of 1985. And being rather serious about the value and the philosophy of education, even at a young age, I opted to go to the UCT for the stability of education at the time. But after the first degree, I returned back to UWC to do my honours, masters. I went to the Cape Peninsula University of Technology, the then Pentec, and also did a national diploma in analytical chemistry. And I finished my PhD at the University of Stellenbosch. So, you know, there's nothing that the Western Cape has in terms of educational facilities that I haven't explored. And it's important, I think, for your network as a scientist to be able to communicate with all relevant role players at the different institutions. I think in current times, a lot of the resistance to collaboration that we find is because we don't know the people. And so knowing the people at the different institutions is actually a big advantage for us and for our students. But I guess because I was the only girl, I had a little bit of favor, so I always had the opportunity to at least air my views, even if they weren't necessarily valued. And it taught me from a young age not to be intimidated by men, because I had the ear of, let's say, the most important man, I guess, in a young girl's life is that of a father. So I think when a father doesn't listen, it creates the impression that what you have to say is not worth saying. My father would challenge me and ask me questions beyond my level of development at that age, and then be very, very quick to dismiss my answers when they were incorrect. So, you know, it creates this desire to want to please and to excel. So it was a competitive young lifestyle was always what I experienced at home. So that has shaped the way that I approach life in general. So always asking questions, you know, engaging with people, making eye contact, and even that in a woman and in a young girl is very offensive to men at different levels and in different ways. They usually prefer girls who are quiet and just coyly smile. I never did the coy sideways glances. I was always very direct, and I found that people don't like it when you look at them straight in the face and pose a direct question, because it requires an immediate answer. So I've learned with time and years to soften a little bit and find other ways of getting the answers. And that's at the core of research. Research doesn't give you the answers obviously. You have to have the willingness and the desire to go and look for it, and to learn as you go along, and to shape the answers that you eventually find as a result of the journey. So I guess being always in a male-dominated environment has taught me to do a lot of introspection and thinking about the things that I was being confronted with. Not always good things or happy things or things that you agree with, and sometimes very challenging things. And of course, a very isolating kind of psychology in your young life, because there isn't another female that's walking that path. It's only you. Mom's busy cooking and looking after 6 men, you know, her husband and 5 brothers. So you learn to do a lot of reading and thinking, and you learn to formulate your arguments very strongly and quickly, because you're not going to get a second chance to say, then you begin being cheeky. So looking back, I guess that was it. At school, I wasn't a very necessarily expressive person, but when the opportunity was given, I've never shied away of formulating my ideas, you know, within the context. So subject to my age and, you know, the appropriate level of thinking, the level of ignorance at different stages in your life, yeah, so. As a scientist, I just do what I have to do every day, and I believe that you have to do it with everything that you have, and you have to do it really well. And you have to be the first one to find your mistakes, to look for your mistakes, to be aware that you're not perfect. But science is so forgiving. Science is always out there. It's not changing. It has always been and it will always be. We're just very fortunate to be able to explore it little bit by little bit. And that depends on your particular inclination. For me, science is also the exploration of art and of emotions and of people and their interaction, not just the exploration of chemicals and what magic you can conjure up, by mixing and knowing how they behave. So science for me is life, it's everything out there. I mean, in our first year chemistry class, we teach our students that what is chemistry? Chemistry is everything out there, everything that you can touch, see or smell. We go on ad infinitum about the periodic table and about your hair and food and everything that's made up of chemicals. So really chemistry is out there. And I say it's very forgiving because even when you make a mistake and you think that you haven't got the right answer, you didn't get 10 out of 10, the knowledge hasn't changed. It's still there. It depends on how you apply yourself to finding out the truths and the knowledge and the hidden secrets, I think, that makes it seem as though it's this dark world that you can't explore. But my advice, I have a son who is grade 11 and I speak to high school learners very often. And my advice is always to apply yourself. Maths and science respect a hard worker, a dedicated worker. You're going to do the same sum that you don't understand over and over, getting more resources, speaking to other people, looking it up on the internet, reading your textbook. Guaranteed. After a couple of times trying, you'll get it. Philosophy is perhaps something different. It's very subjective. It's influenced by the times. Science and maths not. It is what it is. The tools get more, grant us more access and sometimes makes it more easier to understand, but it also depends on your mindset, how you learn. So for me, that's the forgiving nature of science. It's like you can make your mistake, I'll be here. And when you're ready to find out what I am, I'm still here. If you've already made the choice that science is the way to go within the science domain, then first of all, I'd say choose your subjects correctly. Do not go for maths, lit, and bio if you're going to need chemistry, physical chemistry, physics, or chemistry and maths. Make sure that you have the necessary requirements for entrance level, because the types of careers that you describe only fully formulate in our minds when we're in an academic environment like a university, when we see research and researchers engaging with those different types of fields. So for instance, we see forensic analyst in NCIS. It's just a job like a salary clock. We don't know. We think it's exciting because they wear white lab coats and they have bleeping instruments. It's a set like any other. But when you come to university and you speak to forensic analysts and you understand the amount of discipline that is required to figure out the puzzle that is DNA, or how to solve a problem related to a puzzle that you understand, then you begin to see where your particular skills in that field could make a contribution. And secondly, once you've made sure that you get into a university with the correct requirements, don't stop at your first degree if you can afford it. There are all sorts of tools and institutions from government, from private, from our parents, God bless them, who make provision for us to have the best. So make sure that when you engage in education that you get the best. And if that means that you have to go for a fourth year in honors, a master's program, a PhD, then do that. Don't get tired. Life is always going to be there. You're not losing out on anything, but you're gathering the tools that will enable you to make the best contribution. And when you do your best, when you make the best contribution, you feel the most satisfied. So then all those other things that you missed out on, the parties and I don't know, a car which someone had crashed in the meantime, they become insignificant. You can now go and choose vehicle for the sake of transport or vehicle for the sake of embellishment of a career. So choose correctly. Well, I'm very proud to be associated with the University of the Western Cape in particular as a lecturer. I gave you at the beginning an indication of all the places that I've actually been exposed to higher learning. And my choice for UWC, the satisfaction that I now have in being at UWC is having spent 10 years and not only having seen but being part of the transformation. And anyone out there who doesn't know where to go should come to UWC, because it's a growing university. It's not easier here to do chemistry than it is to do chemistry at UCT or Stellenbosch, but I believe it's more worthwhile when you know your purpose, because you'll be able to help someone else more closely here because the need is bigger. Sometimes the other universities, because of their history, are not as in contact with the local communities as UWC is. And I'm not suggesting that every lecturer goes out and, I don't know, teaches youth groups and, you know, high school groups. But by doing what you do very well, when those students come in, they see a good example. So truly, UWC's doors of learning are open, but not to anybody who thinks it's going to be an easy ride. The doors of learning are open to dedicated students who have a vision of making a contribution and transforming, you know, the South Africa that we have to the South Africa that we want to have.